the millions of people are going to show up, and they're going to be peaceful and patriotic on the whole. What do they call it? Pro-terrorist and pro-Hamas and hate America. I mean, why are we even saying this? This is what they do, right? But it's such a cliche, but it is Orwellian.
Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. We have another Monday doubleheader, and segment 2 is going to be Trump's former attorney, Ty Cobb. And I just want to tell you, in case there are any worries, because at our live shows, I received a lot of positive feedback about Bill Kristol Mondays. People love it. And so this is not me just sort of trying to usher him off to the side, slowly but surely. If Jane Fonda and Trump's former lawyer want to talk on Monday, we're going to talk on Monday. And so it's a little bit of an exception. I'm excited to talk to Ty Cobb, but we are going to give you plenty of Bill Kristol.
I'm happy to share the spotlight and the burden. I don't want to have everything depending on me on Monday. That would be bad.
Yeah, I know you don't mind, but the people mind. They want to hear from you.
How did the shows go? I wasn't there in New York Saturday night.
They were great. I was better on Saturday. So if folks listened to the Wednesday show and thought maybe I had one too many pops, that happens. But Saturday really was good. I thought it was great to have Catherine Rampell out there to welcome her to the team, and it was wonderful to see everybody. So thanks to everybody for coming out. And Bill, hopefully we have enough time at the end to rehash the pieing. I'd forgot that you got pied, so we're going to.
That's okay. That's one of those. I think we need to get to Ty Cobb, frankly. So we don't need to really go about the cream pie attack on me 20 years ago.
I think we might have to talk about it. But first, we have a bunch of news across the world and the country. This morning, we have officially the hostage release. 20 remaining living hostages leaving Gaza. Some of the images are really moving and a lot to bear. It's worth noting it's all men. None of the women hostages survived, which I guess shouldn't be surprising, which is sad. But there's something to be said for it. We talked about this a little bit with Sam Stein on Thursday. Obviously, this is just one step in the process, but it's an important step. I was just wondering what your reactions are.
I mean, very mixed. Daniel Gordis, who writes a good newsletter from Israel, moderate, I'd say, in the Israeli political spectrum, grew up here as a young man, has a very moving newsletter today about the mixture of incredible joy. I mean, they've been 2 years waiting for these hostages and following them, and but also, of course, terrible sadness. I mean, the ones who were killed, say nothing of the people killed on October 7th, and say nothing of the 915 soldiers killed in the Gaza operation, to say nothing of the tens of thousands of Palestinians killed. So, I mean, it's really it's been a rough 2 years. I think everyone in that area and everyone who cares about anyone in that area. And it's great. It's good that there's a ceasefire. It's great that the hostages are back. Hopefully Gaza can get rebuilt. But I don't know. I mean, we shouldn't. It's better than the hostages being in captivity and the bombing going on, but an awful long way to go to get to something more solid and achievable.
Jared Kushner's brought peace to the Middle East victory lap. Feels a little early, as far as what is actually yet to happen. I'm gonna have more on this tomorrow with one of our guests. We have another doubleheader tomorrow, so get ready, everybody. Back here in Chicago, the president's invasion, I guess, whatever you want to call it, military occupation of one of the biggest American cities continues apace. There's been some blocking from judges of the administration's ability to send troops both into Oregon and Chicago. There's obviously the local politicians, J.B. Pritzker and others have been standing up and opposing this. And so one of the pieces of scuttlebutt that's been going around is that President Trump might declare, use the Insurrection Act to kind of get around these legal hurdles to his desired end game. J.D. Vance was on Meet the Press this weekend. I was going to play the audio from it, but then I listened to it myself, and the rage that was channeling inside of me was so great. I did not want to subject that onto anybody else on a Monday morning. But Vance basically says the president's looking at all of his options right now. He says right now he hasn't needed to do the Insurrection Act, but we have to remember we are talking about this because crime has gotten out of control in our cities. They kind of go back and forth on these claims about crime, and J.D. Vance basically keeping the door open to invoking the Insurrection Act.
There is no insurrection. I mean, this is, incidentally, I'm not so sure, therefore, it's that easy. They can invoke it. Courts typically don't look behind the curtain, so to speak. They defer to presidents on things of national security or quasi-national security. This is so far removed from what the act is intended for, so ridiculous, that I actually wonder if if that's a good legal recourse for them, and maybe it even exposes them more. Now they're doing it sort of under this somewhat murky, complicated federalizing of the National Guard. That has been used for other, occasions, but what it does show, of course, is they're not willing to limit anything. It's all an excuse. It was the immigrants. We have to protect the ICE people. They're under such threat. These masked guys with guns from these protesters dressed up in inflatable costumes. It's really we need to deploy people to protect them and to protect the facilities. Well, actually, none of them has really been attacked, and none of the facilities has really been attacked. But now it's crime. Crime is out of control in Portland and Chicago, I guess. But I don't think that really supports the invocation of the Insurrection Act. I don't know. Feels to me like it's turning a little bit against Trump. It's so ridiculous and so disproportionate. And I really do believe this. The protesters have been courageous, in Chicago in particular, where it's been rough. And they are at risk when they go near that ICE facility and get tear gassed and pepper bombed and so forth. But also the ridicule. I mean, I feel like the protesters are being peaceful, but also clever and making the whole thing look what it is, which is a real attempted intimidation of the American people.
Yeah, it does. There's a feeling of petering out in one sense. To your point on the stunts, we should shout out our colleague Lauren Egan, who wrote about the mockery of the protesters and how that has worked well, including kind of the furries out there. And she wrote this sentence in the Bulwark this morning: "Inflatable frogs have been omnipresent, especially after a video went viral last week of law enforcement shooting pepper spray into one of the frog costume's posterior air vents," which does. I think in very serious times, it brings some silliness to this, but that's good, I think, because these things are related in a way, right? Like about why is this petering out? And what I'm talking about when I say this is particularly the sending of the troops in the National Guard. It's because we keep using the word pretext. Like, they need pretext, they need excuse, right? And if the protesters are, kind of mocking them and teasing them, and it's people with costumes and handing them roses and stuff, it's harder to create rationale for this. I was listening to one of these other MAGA podcasts over the weekend on my flight back, and it's like the arguments for sending the troops in Portland or Chicago are just based in nothing, right? It's like you can hear them talking about how these protesters are so violent. Like, that's what they keep saying, right? Like, you have to do this because the protests are so violent and out of control. And since that there isn't any actual evidence of that, it becomes harder to acculturate that idea into the mainstream. I mean, obviously this could change between now and when this thing publishes, as far as what the facts are on the ground, but it is noteworthy, I think.
Right, and they're trying to provoke the protesters, and so it could change for that reason too. But no, it is. I mean, when we say petering out, I think we don't mean the situation necessarily is petering out. The ICE is not backing off at all, so far as one can tell. And the assaults on the protesters, if anything, by ICE and other federal enforcement forces seem maybe a little stronger even more violent than they have been. But I do think the political momentum behind it is petering out. And one thing I think is
political momentum is petering out. Just to be, that is exactly what I meant as well.
And I do think, it's one thing for governors and mayors to say this isn't necessary. People can look and say, well, they're Democrats, and they're always going to say it's not necessary in their own cities. They're not going to admit that they've let things get out of control. It's another thing for just tons of citizens, normal citizens, to show up and say this is both unnecessary and deeply offensive, and that's why I do think the protests have mattered here more than I expect. I didn't quite realize that ahead of time, I got to say. I didn't think about the distinction between a political official opposing something and citizens rallying to oppose it.
Yeah. While we're talking about the protests, I do want to come back to ICE. But we had Mike Johnson and Tom Emmer and Sean Duffy all out over the weekend commenting on the protests, and they had a similar argument that they were making. Let's actually listen to a couple of them.
The theory we have right now, they have a Hate America rally that's scheduled for October 18th on the National Mall. It's all the pro-Hamas wing and the Antifa people. They're all coming out. Some of the House Democrats are selling T-shirts for the event, and it's being told to us that they won't be able to reopen the government until after that rally because they can't face their rabid base.
The No Kings protest, Maria, really frustrating. I mean, this is part of Antifa, paid protesters. It begs the question, who's funding it?
This is about one thing and one thing only, to score political points with the terrorist wing of their party, which is set to hold, as Leader Scalise just commented on, a Hate America rally.
I forgot to grab it. We'll just get it in post. So there you go. Mike Johnson's a Hate America rally, and Emmer, the terrorist wing of the Democratic Party. And I don't know. We have the protests are coming up here on Saturday. Just to be very clear for everybody, No Kings protests are October 18th, Saturday. I said the wrong date on a thing over the weekend. I'm doing my best out here, guys. Keeping track of the calendar is challenging. It is Saturday. Go to your local No Kings protest on Saturday, and especially go if you're a part of the Love America wing of the No Kings protest, which I think is basically everybody. I think it's inverse. It might be projection. The Hate America side is the side calling people that are exercising their First Amendment rights terrorists. It seemed like to me.
I was at the No Kings protest, the first one in June, and it went out of its way to be patriotic, but it was patriotic. I mean, it wasn't just that they had been advised, which they, to wave American flags, but also they genuinely thought of themselves as defending, and they are, in my opinion, defending American principles and the American form of government and the American way of life, really, against Trump's authoritarianism. And I've seen a fair amount of the material that's been sent out for this protest, both to organizers, but also to, just on the website for citizens to read, and encouraging them to come. It's all bends over backwards to be peaceful and patriotic. And the millions of people are going to show up, and they're going to be peaceful and patriotic on the whole. What do they call it? Pro-terrorist and pro-Hamas and hate America. I mean, why are we even saying this is what they do, right? But it's such a cliche, but it is Orwellian, right? I mean, it's one thing to say that, I don't know, pro-Palestinian protesters, who might include a few people who are Hamas defenders, that's all pro-Hamas. That's unfair, but that's a kind of exaggeration that happens in, this kind of heated political discourse. It's still bad, but this is so insanely removed from the truth that, again, I sort of wonder if they can pull this off. That's the talking point. The talking point isn't, we're proud of what President Trump is doing. He's improving the situation in this country. He's acting as a strong president. Right. It's not that, right? It's attacking millions of Americans who are going out to peacefully protest and wave signs on highways and bridges and assemble near the McLean Library, which is where I'll be, on a sort of patch of green there at an intersection of two suburban roads. And the idea that this is terrorist friendly it's really jaw dropping, but it's part of their whole strategy, obviously, the domestic terrorism stuff.
It's tied to Trump's speech to the generals. We're talking about the enemy within, be more dangerous than the enemy without. It's in this Duffy quote. He's talking about, it begs the question, who's funding the protests, which ties to like what Stephen Miller is saying about going after.
I'm looking for I'd like Secretary Duffy, if he could send me some information on who's funding me to drive a few miles to the protest.
At the New Orleans No Kings protest, it was like 110 degrees out there. And if we were being funded by, the Bilderbergers or whatever, it could have maybe used some fans. Or maybe some of those things that, blow mist, some misters. Could use some misters out there. Anyway, it's phony, but it is a kind of united effort, messaging effort of what they're trying to do, right? Which is otherize the opposition internally, menace them, target them, try to silence them, jail certain people. Obviously, relates to what I want to talk to about Ty Cobb with Tish James and James Comey, and it all relates to each other as far as what their political strategy is with regards to tamping down internal political opposition in a way that is, we should just say, fundamentally anti-American.
Yeah, it's sort of almost like what a fascist or certainly what an authoritarian government does, and even beyond, like even mild authoritarianism to kind of fascism of different kinds, or Stalinism, whatever you call your enemies, the worst thing possible, and describe to them some of your own actions. But and it is just one point you made that I want to emphasize. It's organized, and that is to say, one random Republican congressman says something extreme. Okay, they're all, half of them are idiots, and they say things like that, and they want to get their clip up, to go viral in right wing MAGA world. This is the Speaker of the House, other Emmer, right, who's in leadership. Of course, Vance too. As Vance said, a version of that, I think. Right. I mean, it's an organized
cabinet member. Duffy's in the cabinet.
It's so it's a coordinated and organized effort to besmirch millions of Americans. I hope many more people come out and to show how counterproductive this effort is. That would be nice.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I do think there is, without focusing on the ominous, there is some political risk to this, because I do think there is a big contrast in actual evidence of what the No Kings rallies and what the folks have been doing versus, say, the 2020 Black Lives Matter rallies, right, where most of those were peaceful as well. So folks that came out were in the American tradition and spirit. There were also at the same time, looting. If you look at the worst videos, what happened in Kenosha, for example, there were, or Oakland, where I was living, right? Like there were some examples of this that could be used to, sort of otherize and marginalize the whole movement in a way that I think eventually was politically effective. It wasn't politically effective in 2020, but eventually it was politically effective. There's just no pretense for that here, right? And so I do think it might make them end up looking kind of ridiculous. I do think that there is some potential political risk here to trying to smear just everyday Americans that are showing up with their fanny packs and sunblock and calling them Antifa terrorists. I don't know.
I hope so. I mean, I think the last time that there was this sustained an effort to demonize, or that's even quite the right word. What's the right word? I mean, to really just slander Americans trying to protest for their exercising their right of assembly and making a case for individual rights and for freedoms was in the 60s with the 50s and 60s.
Hippies.
Well, I was going to say 50s and 60s with civil rights protesters, where actual governors of states, I mean, senior officials, at least at the state level, called them communist demonstrators and communist agitators and so forth, right? And people looked up at the time when I was a kid, but I sort of remember this and saw these peaceful demonstrators for civil rights getting hosed by Bull Connor and all, and it did make a difference politically, against those who were slandering them. So I don't know. I hope no one gets hosed by, no one gets beaten up like John Lewis was and so forth. But I don't know. You just see these scenes. I mean, it really is the violence that the ICE people are using. It's not quite at the level, thank God, of Kent State or something, but they are not holding back, it seems to me. And the protesters, to their credit, really are, I think, and behaving responsibly.
All right, folks, the weather is cooling, especially for many of you up in the Northeast. I was in New York on Saturday in a beanie. I was in a beanie. No, it was on Sunday morning after the show, going to get coffee. Hate that. I'm a summer boy. And luckily we get, the extended summer down here in the South. But even still, I have to go to New York and D.C., and so I've been starting to think about my fall and winter gear, and I've been turning to our friends at Quince that delivers every time with wardrobe staples that'll carry you through the season. Quince has the fall attire that you'll want to wear on repeat, like 100% Mongolian cashmere from just $60, classic fit denim like me and Ty Cobb are both wearing today, and real leather and wool outerwear that looks sharp and holds up. By partnering directly with top artisans, Quince cuts out the middlemen to deliver premium quality at half the cost of similar brands. I was eyeing a little cable knit sweater. I've had a cable knit sweater for a while that I was wearing on MSNBC, and I had somebody that will remain nameless tell me about how gay I was looking in that quarter knit, in that cable knit sweater. And I got to tell you, I take that as a compliment. And so I took that feedback and I was like, I'm going to go to Quince and get a new one. And I got a new merino wool cable knit sweater coming that you'll be seeing probably not anytime soon in New Orleans, but next time I'm in DC and New York. So keep your eye out from that. It's going to look cute. Layer up this fall with pieces that feel as good as they look. Go to quince.com/thebulwark for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. What's up, Canada? That's QUINCE.com/thebulwark. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/thebulwark. And that does take us back to ICE, because there are echoes of this in the way that ICE has been behaving. Obviously, I interviewed George Redis last week. His story,
that was
harrowing.
amazing.
Folks missed
That was
it.
just amazing. Terrible.
Just unbelievable what they did to him. Unbelievable. And really, the most amazing thing about George, it's worth shouting out, is like the way in which, at the end of the conversation, when I was like filled with rage and wanting to like shout at the moon and turn my flag upside down like Martha Analito, he had a very even temperament about it. Was almost cheerful and optimistic and positive about America. It was really kind of heartwarming to hear his resilience in the face of the way he was treated. But it isn't just him, right? There's another video from over the weekend that the guy, and a little bit of irony, his name is Francisco Miranda, and who is also a U.S. citizen, and he gets menaced by the ICE agents. And actually, let's just put up a little bit of this.
You just told me that's you, but that doesn't make me an illegal or anything.
Look him up. Turn around, or you're gonna get the dog. Turn around.
I haven't done anything.
We're gonna put you in cuffs, or you're gonna get the dog.
The guy's yelling at him, "Turn around, or you're getting the dog." And then they're manhandling him. I just don't understand like what, how there is not eventually overwhelming pushback to all of this. And it's on some level, obviously there's a human question, and many of us don't want any humans, whether they're here legally or not, to be treated such a way by ICE. But if you get to a point where you really are in a Stasi situation, where you have masked agents harassing and menacing people that are citizens of this country, threatening to like sick the dogs on them, putting them in solitary confinement. I mean, like, that is extremely, extremely dark place that we're in. And I think that it also is unpopular if there can be enough attention given to it, if there can be popular momentum to push back against it.
And if people see what I think is clearly true, which is these are not individual rogue cases, one ICE agent here on the West Coast and one in Chicago was acted badly. Okay, that's life, with police, that happens with police forces, obviously. That's not happening. They're clearly being encouraged to do this. No one that we know of has paid a price for any of these actions. And this is, of course, the message and the spirit that's coming from Kristi Noem and from people running the Border Patrol and ICE and Stephen Miller himself, right? I mean, it is important to say this isn't just, they didn't recruit very good people, and it's a lot of this. They're overworked, they're tired, and they get worked up and overheated. This is what they want. The kind of the intimidation.
And they want more. They've added more funding to it. They're doing recruitment campaigns. That's why they had former Superman Dean Cain out there, running the little gladiator, meandering through the gladiator track. And that's what it is, the plan. Right.
And the recruitment campaigns sort of emphasize this aspect of what ICE and the Border Patrol do, right? I mean, it's sort of, you get to join ICE. You too can participate in trying to intimidate and terrorize your other people here in America.
The other news item for the weekend is the RIFs, the reduction in force from the government. It's happening across a bunch of different agencies. The big focus is on what is happening inside HHS. Our colleague Sam Stein has been doing a lot of reporting on this, as well as Jonathan Cohn. At this point, we don't exactly know who's all been fired, like in part because these guys are so incompetent that they fired the Ebola team and then rehired them, said that it was an accident. Some of the people that are fired are furloughed, and so they can't access their email and don't know whether or not they're fired. And so there's a lot of just confusion out there. But like, just as one example that Sam wrote about in the newsletter, that I just want to mention. So you have the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. This SAM HSA is a small agency inside HHS, but it plays a vital role in funding, overseeing, and advising state and local programs on things like opioid addiction treatment and suicide prevention. It is now down to about 1/3 of its former size with all of the RIFs on the people. Part of this is part of their plan, but it is important to like point this stuff out. Like these guys try to have it both ways, where they're saying, well, we really do care about the forgotten man when it comes to fentanyl, when it comes to certain areas, when it comes to our base, like this is the JD Vance shtick, right? Like we need to care about the Appalachia. And like, these are the kinds of agencies, like those are the kind of people this is meant to help. Like the small agencies focused on opioid addiction. And these guys are just getting mass firings, not based on like performance or efficiency or whatever. Just Russell Vought wanting to, chop off as much as the government as possible, cause as much pain as possible.
And chop off the parts they don't like because of some vague ideological, distaste for helping people's mental health. I think they don't like that. I think in the Veterans Association too, there's been cutbacks on parts, the hospitals.
Yeah, they don't believe in therapy.
Yeah, no, that is really
not a fan of better health.
Right. Yeah. They don't believe in real scientific research on, on diseases either. So, I do think in that respect, again, one wonders, maybe I'm just talking myself into being optimistic this morning in a weird way, in a dark moment. Maybe that too is an overreach. Do people really want, it's one thing government shutdown, Americans are used to that. Some arguments on both sides. The Republicans did pass a budget, blah, 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 so it's sort of, who's really responsible? Maybe they should get together and negotiate. But that taking advantage of it, I hope the Democrats can really go to town on this. I wish they would just go to town on all of this, honestly, and stop having to preface every sentence they say that's criticizing the administration. Of course, we want to sit at the table. We're really into here. We only can get back to the table and work this out. Maybe they could just drop that for a week. But I'm just going to say,
you don't want to get to the table.
I do not want to get to the table this week. I want to spend this week criticizing the brutality in the cities and the cruelty in their budget and in their operations. And then let's go to the No Kings demonstration and let that be a real expression of American public opinion. And then they can go sit. I guess they have to sit at the table at some point, but I'm so sick of maybe they shouldn't even. Maybe can't they just deal by email or something?
Yeah.
What is the love? The table thing is driving me crazy. It's just like the metaphor. I don't know what it's about. It's so Washington, right? We got to get around a table, So.
Yeah. Feel free to tell me to not feel good about something, because I'm always open to a more pessimistic view. But it does, I almost in spite of the messaging efforts, I feel like the Democrats are kind of winning the shutdown. And I think that in part because like the substance is really on their side, like maybe not the substance of the like minutia of the legislative, because I feel like a lot of times we sort of have flipped the types of arguments that are usually being made. Like a lot of times you hear Democrats making arguments about, Senate norms and the rescissions package and all this. And you have Republicans doing like demagoguing. And now it's sort of inverse. Not the Democrats are demagoguing, but the Republicans are like talking about how, well, you need 60 votes in the Senate, and it's the Schumer shutdown, and you don't exactly understand how the processes work on Capitol Hill, and the Democrats are the ones out there saying like, well, no, stop cutting people's health care, stop, sending people into the streets of cities to harass our citizens mass, right? Like, and they have more of a substantive complaint versus the Republicans, and I do it feels like it's not like overwhelming success or anything, but it seems like on balance it's working.
And my only recommendation would be they should all, Jeffries and Schumer in particular, but most of the elected officials, they should just not go on television and instead push the bookers to book the victims of ICE and the people who are benefit from the services that we've been talking about, mental health and others, and put them on television as the spokespeople against what the administration is doing. But of course, politicians think they're the best spokesmen and women, so they can't give up their spot to someone else.
Chris Murphy is doing pretty good.
There's some of them. I will admit.
The other, related to kind of the congressional wrangling is there's a Wall Street Journal story out this weekend about how the White House is crowing about how they have made Congress to submit this time more effectively than the last time. Among the quotes from the story, inside the White House, top advisors joke that they're ruling Congress with an iron fist. Steve Bannon likened Congress to the Duma, the Russian assembly that is largely ceremonial. And like, I gotta say, Bannon right again. It's about to be a trend with bad people being right. But gotta say, Bannon feels pretty right about this. Congress is not, basically does not need to exist, the Republican Congress. And I think the degree to which they have not demonstrated that they have any interest in actual governing also weakens this argument that like, oh, it must be the Democrats. Like Mike Johnson, the House has only been in session like 12 days since Memorial Day or something. I'm making that number up, but they've barely been in session. They've been in session for weeks. They went in hiding because of Epstein. Now they're back out of session again because they don't want to no negotiation over the shutdown stuff. And I do think that it's pretty bad for our system of government and balance of powers. But as a political matter at this point, I just think that it's accepted that this is the situation. The Congress has now just completely abdicated any responsibility.
Yeah, and I guess Johnson's keeping them out even now, sort of because of Epstein too, right? Because he would have to swear in the new member of Congress.
Yeah, he doesn't want to swear in Gravalia, I think is her name. She won a special election in Arizona.
Yeah, and that would give 218 signatures, and then the clock would start ticking. So for various reasons, he's trying to run the clock out so the discharge petition on Epstein doesn't come due this session. You're right. That's a good point. They should make that point more too. I mean, that they say they want to govern, but they don't want to govern, of course. And they're off not having town halls in their district. I mean, where are the Republican members of Congress? They're utterly invisible. They don't want to see the voters. Right?
Mar-a-Lago, Sea Island.
Yeah.
I don't know, hanging out. Newsmax, doing Fox. It's hard to get in. It's hard to get in on the Fox circuit though these days if you're a Republican congressperson because all of the Trump cabinet is on constantly. I spent a bunch of time on watching Fox the last couple of days since I've been traveling around, and it's like I knew it intellectually, but watching it, it's like kind of astounding how often the Trump cabinet is on, and it really is. There's like a state TV element to it at times,
and they're sucking up to Trump a lot, right? It's not just that they're defending administration policies, which would be a more traditional thing for a cabinet member to do. Rubio, I saw, maybe that wasn't on Fox, it was like a video they put out or something, but it has the Secretary of State, like the State Department skill on it or something, and it's Rubio just praising to the sky. I mean, this is like Stalin or something in the Soviet Union, lauding Trump as what an amazing and wonderful president. And yeah, again, maybe people find that a little off-putting, I hope.
I don't know. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. Here's why you should say yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 a month. Ditch the overpriced wireless and their jaw-dropping monthly bills, unexpected overages, and hidden fees. Plans start at $15 a month with Mint. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/bulwark. That's mintmobile.com/bulwark. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. It's hard when stuff isn't breaking through. I noticed. I went to look to see if my friend George Redis had been covered or mentioned at all on Fox News. No, he had not.
Literally not mentioned.
So you'd think that a veteran who was jailed by the government for 3 days, put in solitary confinement for 48 hours. That might be a story of the interest of to the Patriots over at Fox. But no, I tweeted at Brett Baer to see if he was going to be interested in covering. He's not gotten back to me. Every once in a while, Brett will reply. You gotta, whatever that's worth. Speaking of people that are offering unexpected truth bombs, Marjorie Taylor Greene was on a podcast with Tim Dillon this weekend that I listened to, and what I'm about to say is not a joke. I think that if you are a Democratic congressperson listening to the show or a Democratic staffer, you have to listen to the entire, whatever it is, 30, 40 minutes of Marjorie Taylor Greene on the Tim Dillon podcast. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene continues to just say some crazy shit, of course. And there are some anti-Semitic stuff there, though they deny it, but like there's some concerning comments in that space. There's obviously still occasional lavish praise of Donald Trump, right? So you wouldn't want to, if you're a Democratic congressman, you wouldn't want to use every single talking point that Marjorie Taylor Greene uses. But there are a number of talking points that she uses where she is extremely blunt, talking about the failures of the Trump administration's policies to respond to the needs of working class voters, of MAGA voters, and the way in which she talks about it is something that I think folks on the left could learn from. I want to play one clip in particular.
But we're having problems with these tariffs. And now we're having problems. We can't get supplies from this country and we can't get supplies from this country. And there's problems. But have regular people's bank accounts been affected? Has the stress come off? No, that has not happened yet. And that needs to be the major focus. It shouldn't be about helping your crypto donors or your AI donors or welcoming in these people that hated you and spent money to try to beat you, but all of a sudden are excited to come out to the new Rose Garden patio.
Yes.
That shouldn't be the focus. The focus should be the people that showed up at the rallies. No
notes. Amen. Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's exactly right. Every single word of that is exactly right. You're welcome on the podcast anytime, Congresswoman. And, I've got a lot of problems with her in various ways, but that is good messaging and also correct.
If she comes on this on the podcast, on the Bulwark podcast, that will be a moment.
Well,
you and she, that'll be great.
She's welcome.
Launch your campaign for the Democratic nomination in 2028.
Well, I think probably that's probably a little bit out of step. But I just, the plain way in which she's speaking is good, and also just this contrast of like people's lives aren't getting better, MAGA voters' lives aren't getting better. That was what your mandate was for, and it seems like you're spending more time catering to the tech oligarchs. She doesn't use the word oligarchs. The big tech donors, tech billionaires, crypto billionaires, and having your little parties on the Rose Garden patio. And that is exactly the right thing to be saying because it's true.
Do you think she's so, I don't know what the word is, unique or something, or just her own person, that it doesn't mean anything? There are broader, is she reflecting any broader sentiments rippling beneath the surface in MAGA world, do you think, or is she just herself?
I don't think she's reflecting any broader sentiments in kind of active MAGA political world, right? Like, I think that people are generally pretty happy in MAGA media world, MAGA, the grassroots, like the biggest supporters.
And scared of criticizing Trump.
But that next layer down, I don't know. And I'll just say that she goes on in this interview, and people literally just listen to the whole thing. She's got 3 kids in their 20s. Like, she represents a district that's like rural Georgia, right? So you're out there. She's seeing, if you have 3 kids in their 20s, you're seeing the challenges financially right now that people are facing in this world. You're experiencing that in a maybe a more direct way than some of these older members of the House, right? And people who live in big cities, right? It's just, it is different, right? So I think that her experience there is part of it. I think that she has like the cred to do this, right? There's not a ton of worry that she's going to get primaried from the right? It's like she doesn't live in fear of that like all these other guys do. So I think there's a little bit of that gives her a chance to do truthiness. Maybe there's some political strategizing here. I don't know. I mean, in that podcast, Tim Dillon's like, sounds like maybe you're a better MAGA representative for 2028 than JD Vance, but she doesn't take the bait on that. Maybe that's part. It's a weird time to do that, though. October of 2025 is kind of a strange time to do that, but maybe that's in her. I don't know. And she is a crazy person. I mean, she started screaming at David Hogg on the street, thinks that they're space lasers. She wishes Jews are controlling the weather. So, it's hard to get fully inside her head. I guess I would say this. I think if there were a lot of people talking like Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking, I think it would resonate with people because it's true. It has a benefit of being true. Like, people's lives aren't getting better, and Donald Trump does care more about his Rose Garden patio parties and, helping the Silicon Valley tech leaders that have come belatedly to his effort than he cares about the struggles of regular people. And it's just like nobody's really convincingly been able to make that argument for a long time. And so maybe it will be Marjorie Taylor Greene that will do it.
Here we are.
That's my
Here we are.
analysis.
Through the looking glass or something.
Bill Kristol and Marjorie Taylor Greene together. Who knows? Who knows? Life is long. It's a strange trip. The journey, the roads, the twists and turns. Who knows how things will end up. I want to end on you wrote in the newsletter this morning you were feeling oddly cheerful. So I want to end on an oddly cheerful note. You were speaking at a college and you referenced, as mentioned, the pie. I said you haven't always had an oddly cheerful moment on colleges. At a college, you were at Earlham College, and members in the audience jeered a student who threw a pie at you, and that splattered on your face. You wiped the pie from your face, as the New York Times write-up, and said, "Just let me finish this point." Then you finished the speech and took questions from the audience. It didn't seem like you went on a campaign to cancel the student afterwards. So that's nice. You had pie. What kind of pie was it? Do you remember?
This was 20 years ago at Earlham College, which is in Eastern Indiana. I think it was in Mike Pence's congressional district, because he called me the next day to sort of not apologize, but to say, "Gee, it's terrible. So sorry that happened to you in my district." And it was a Quaker school. And it was a very nice visit. It was a speech and a paid speech. And I had nice dinner before. And the president there was emphasizing that they're very proud of their Quaker roots, of course, which is appropriate, and that they've always tried to have diversity of viewpoint and tolerance for unpopular viewpoints. And I was there sort of defending basically Bush's foreign policy, which was not popular, I would say, at the school nor at most campuses at the time. And it was just kind of funny that that's where this kid took it into his mind to sort of rush up to the stage and throw this chocolate cream pie at me, which hit me, sort of splattered onto the president or something behind me, who was on the stage too. And but
a chocolate cream.
It was soft.
Did you get a lick? Did you taste it at all?
I couldn't help. It was kind of, it was a little. I had to wipe it off maybe a little bit. Yeah, there it was on my jacket when I went back to the Holiday Inn afterwards. It was a moment. It was a moment. I wouldn't dramatize it. It was not the most traumatic thing that ever happened, so it was fine.
Think about how far you've come, though. 20 years ago, getting pied on campus, and to where you are now. Think about what could happen to Marjorie Taylor Greene in 20 years.
That's a good point. Yeah,
maybe she can go on a similar journey. Anyway, you were oddly cheerful because you're
no. I saw these students out
in
California, USC, and Claremont. And, I was giving speeches, but obviously they arranged some sessions with students who were active in various institutes there and sort of politics and political science department and stuff. And they were good. They were great. And I'm sure huge self-selection of the ones who want to spend an hour talking to me and so forth. So I don't want to exaggerate this, but I was struck that they were sensible. And all this talk among people my age, or even your age, about the kids are all messed up. What's going to happen? I don't know. It felt to me like the kids were more sensible than people my age who were busy, supporting Donald J. Trump, which the kids aren't actually. You know what? If only the kids had voted in this last election, it would have been a lot better. All the boomers who were going on and on about how the kids' minds have been ruined by social media and warped by this and that. I'm a little more skeptical of that. And so they were nice visits. And as I say, they sort of maybe a little artificially cheered me up, but that was good to be cheered up.
We could use some artificial cheer. Bill Kristol, good to see you as always. No pies here on this podcast. And maybe one of our listeners will send you a pie, and to enjoy.
Nice.
Or are you on a health kick? Or are you Maha now? I noticed that the Bulwark office is a little Maha for my taste, and I sent an all staff missive complaining about how the only chocolate in the office was like the protein chocolate that was low in sugar. It's like, come on, okay. I'm all about health, but I wanted a Reese's peanut butter cup. We can
I'm
going
into the office.
We can treat ourselves
shortly here, and I will weigh in. I think the two of us together will have no influence at all on what actually is purchased as snacks for the office. But whatever, I'm with you.
Get me some goddamn crunchy M&Ms in the office. All right, everybody, that's Bill Kristol. Up next, Todd Cobb. We'll see you next week, Bill.